Before starting the session, we would like to thank Professor Amal for her perseverance for over 20 years to conduct such meeting over 20 years. Congratulations, Dr. Amal. And we look forward to keep it on, inshallah, for 40s, inshallah. It's my pleasure to announce the start of the first speaker. Our first speaker, إن شاء الله يعني فتحتها مسك بإذن الله. Professor Dr. Laila Sherif. Professor Dr. Laila, she is a professor of pediatrics and head of the pediatric hematology, Zagazi University. She has many international publications, and definitely she always keen to attend all meetings nationally and internationally. And Dr. Laila will give a talk titled, "Does iron play a role in bone health?" Does it, Dr. Laila?
Yes.
Inshallah. تفضلي.
Thank you so much for kind introduction. Thank you for inviting me to share in this great conference, and special thanks to my dear Professor Amal Bishlawi for regular invitation to attend this wonderful conference, and congratulations for great success. I will speak today about iron and bone health. This is my agenda. I will start by bone homeostasis, then role of iron in the bone homeostasis, followed by relationship between the body iron and the bone metabolism, and lastly, iron overload and bone loss, and iron deficiency and bone loss. As we know, bone is metabolically active tissue that is continuously remodeled, which enables the growth of childhood, as well as repair and adaptation of the skeleton in the adult by removing the old foci of the damaged bone and replacing them by new bone. The process is called bone remodeling. The two major cell types involved in the bone remodeling are the osteoclast, which function as bone resorbing cells, and the osteoblast, which function as bone building cells. In the cycle of bone remodeling, the old bone is usually digested by the osteoclast, and the new bone is made by the osteoblast in tightly coordinated manner to assure similar rate of resorption and formation, and thus sustaining the skeletal integrity. This is the process of bone remodeling. It starts by osteoclast come to the area of the old bone, then the osteoclast attach it to the area of the old bone, and then it secretes enzymes and secrete acids which digest the old bone, and then it disappears. The mesenchymal stem cell, which is the mother cells for production of the osteoblast, migrate to the area of bone resorption, and this migration is under the control of growth factors and cytokine liberated from the area of bone destructions. Then the osteoblast deposits the bone, leading to formations of the bone. This is the biomarkers of bone. It is either secrete bone formation marker released by the osteoblast or bone resorption marker released by the osteoclast. Bone remodeling is orchestrated by many systemic and local factors. The most important systemic factor is hormone like growth hormone, thyroid, parathyroid, sex hormone. Nutritional and genetic factor also play important role. In addition to local factor, growth factor, plasma-derived growth factor, bone morphogenic protein 2 and 4, cytokine like macrophage colony stimulating factor, and receptor activator nuclear factor, kappa B ligand. If there is imbalance in the bone remodeling, it will lead to decrease in the bone mineral density, microarchitecture deteriorations, decreased bone loss, and increased fracture risk. So, what are the role of iron in the bone metabolism? As we all know, iron participates in many enzyme systems in the body, including enzymes involved in the collagen synthesis. Bone tissue is rich in collagen type 1. 90% of the bone protein is composed of collagen type 1. The synthesis of collagen type 1 involve hydroxylation of the pre-collagen. The reaction of hydroxylation is catalyzed by enzymes in which iron is important cofactors. Another important mechanism is iron participate in vitamin D activations and deactivation. In this pathway, the cytochrome B450 superfamily, large number of heme-containing enzymes play a critical role. As we know, vitamin D activations occur through two important steps of hydroxylation. The first step occurs in the liver, producing 25-hydroxy vitamin D. This step is catalyzed by the cytochrome B25 hydroxylase. The second step of activations occur in the kidney, where cytochrome B1 alpha hydroxylase is the main enzyme responsible for production of the bioactive form of vitamin D. Then deactivation also require enzyme system where the iron is very important. So what are the relationship between the body iron level and bone metabolism? In healthy population, the relationship between the iron status and bone metabolism is controversial. This very large longitudinal study was published by Kim in 2012, evaluating the serum ferritin concentration in relation to annualized changes in the bone mineral density in healthy Korean in 940 postmenopausal women and 789 middle-aged men over 40 years. After follow-up of 3 years, they found after adjustment of the potential variable, the rate of bone loss was significantly accelerated in dose-dependent manner with increasing the ferritin quartile category. And these data provided the first clinical evidence that increased body iron store could be an independent risk factor for accelerated bone loss even in healthy populations. Another study published also by Kim in 2013, evaluating the relation between the serum ferritin and low bone mineral density in women over 40 years. They found increased total body iron store could be an independent risk factor for accelerated bone loss in postmenopausal women. Very interesting study also published in Medicine in 2017, where they investigate the relationship between the hemoglobin, ferritin, and bone mineral density in the Korean adolescent, their age range here from 10 to 18 years. What they found? They found a positive relationship between the serum ferritin, hemoglobin, and the body and the bone mineral content in the adolescent boys, but not in girls. What about the iron overload and the bone loss? There is accumulating evidence suggests that iron overload conditions are associated with bone weakening. Iron overload conditions like hemochromatosis, like chronic hemolytic anemia, thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, spherocytosis, chronic liver disease. All of these conditions can lead to osteopenia, osteoporosis, and fracture. In hemochromatosis, several studies found that the incidence of osteoporosis is about 25 to 34%. In sickle cell anemia, bone involvement is very common and it can manifest as in diverse ways, including bone and joint pain, vertebral bone deformities, osteopenia, osteoporosis, and pathological fracture. Low bone mineral density is present in about 70% of sickle cell patients after the age of 30 years. In thalassemia, severe osteoporosis and pathological fracture continue to be one of the most common comorbidity in thalassemia. Low bone mineral density is present in less than 10% in children less than 10 years, but over 60% in patients over 20 years of age. This is a very big problem in the adult. At the lumbar spine, the incidence of osteoporosis is about 89%. In hip, 62%. As the distal radius is 73%. There are several factors involved in the pathogenesis of low bone mineral density in the iron overload condition like thalassemia. First, bone marrow expansion causes mechanical interruption of the bone formation, leading to cortical thinning and increase the deteriorations of the bone formations. Second, vitamins and trace elements, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin K, zinc, and copper deficiency also involved. Multiple hormonal problems occur in these patients. Iron overload and chelation therapy, genetic variant, vitamin D receptor polymorphism or collagen type 1 polymorphism, decreased physical activity. All of these factors participate in low bone mineral density in iron overload condition. So what are the cellular mechanisms underlying bone loss in iron overload condition? This association between the iron metabolism and the bone homeostasis. Iron intake, if it is less than the iron excretion, iron overload occur, and also it can lead to bone loss. If the iron intake equal the iron excretions, the balance occur and also the bone homeostasis is balanced. But if the iron intake is less than the iron excretion, iron deficiency occur and also bone loss occur. As we know, the osteoclast developed from the myeloid cells of the monocyte macrophage lineage, and this process is initiated by the macrophage colony stimulating factor, which leads to the precursors, and then the final differentiation require the receptor activator transcriptional factor kappa B ligand. This process is enhanced by the presence of iron overload. So iron overload condition leads to increased bone resorption. What about the bone formation? As we know, also the osteoblast developed from the mesenchymal stem cells. And this differentiation is under the control of Ronix. It was found that iron overload downregulate this Ronix, and so it will lead to decrease in the bone formation. So iron overload condition, there is increased bone resorption and decreased bone formation. What about the iron homeostasis in iron deficient state? As we know, iron deficiency is a common public health problem affecting about 2 billion worldwide. And we all know that iron deficiency anemia is not only hematological disease, it is a systemic disease affecting many organ systems. One of these is the bone physiology, through either decreased production of collagen or affection of the vitamin D metabolism. The effect of iron deficiency in the bone is well addressed in several animal studies. Thalassemia in 2009 conducted a study investigating changes in the bone formation and the bone resorption by measuring the marker of bone turnover and histomorphometer in rat. They found that dietary iron deficiency decreased the bone mineral content and bone mineral density. Another study reported that the marker of bone formation, osteocalcine, is also decreased in the patient with iron deficiency. This very interesting study published in 2013 investigating whether there is difference in the bone remodeling between the group of premenopausal iron deficient anemia and the healthy group, and whether recovery of iron status could affect the bone turnover marker. 35 iron deficient anemia women and 38 healthy women were recruited in the study. Iron deficient women received iron therapy, and the biomarkers of iron, in addition to marker of bone resorption and marker of bone formation, were evaluated at the baseline and after therapy. What they found? They found that the markers of bone formations are decreased in iron deficient anemia, and the marker of bone resorption increased. And they found after therapy, the marker of bone formation and the marker of bone resorption decreased. And they conclude that iron deficiency anemia is related to higher bone resorption independent of the age of the body mass index, and recovery of iron deficiency anemia has concomitant beneficial effect on the bone remodeling in premenopausal women, decreasing both bone resorption and formation. This very large longitudinal study was done in Taiwan, determining the role of iron deficiency as the risk factor for osteoporosis by analyzing large nationwide population-based sample of 1 million randomly assigned individuals obtained from the Taiwan National Health Insurance Research Database. After excluding the patient who have osteoporosis before and the patient less than 20 years, they divide the patient into two groups. Iron deficient group over 35,000 and the control group over 178. They found that the patient with history of iron deficiency anemia have higher incidence of osteoporosis compared to the individual without iron deficiency. And also the iron deficiency anemia has earlier onset of osteoporosis compared to those without iron deficiency. So my summary is, there is an evident detrimental effect of iron excess on the bone homeostasis, which can manifest itself in different ways, including osteoporosis, osteopenia, as well as altered microarchitecture. The effect of iron deficiency in the bone health is still less clear, but some studies suggest that this condition is also associated with weakened bone, highlighting the balanced bone homeostasis require optimal, not too low, not too high iron level. And thank you.
Many thanks, Professor, dear colleague, Professor Laila Sherif, for comprehensive and nice presentation.